right, looks like we're good. I'm going to just double check Facebook, make sure we're live on Facebook.
Sure.
Okay, perfect. We are all set. So we will go ahead and get started.
Cool.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for this Westy Live. My name is Jamie Chavez. I'm the president and CEO of the Westminster Chamber of Commerce. And every Wednesday, we bring to you a live broadcast featuring one of our newest members of the chamber, give them a chance to introduce themselves and talk a little bit about what they can do for you or your business. If this is your first time joining us on the broadcast, welcome. Thanks for being here. You can click like or follow us on Facebook to get notifications for when we go live in the future. Or if you're on YouTube, you can hit subscribe and explore previous broadcasts there as well. We also offer broadcasts on Monday that are dedicated to city updates. So we feature interviews with our mayor, councilors, mayor pro tem, and other key city staff. So tune in to those for your chance to hear all about what's going on down at City Hall. And as you watch the broadcast this morning, just want to encourage you to drop any comments, any questions, or simply say hello, and we'll get to those during the interview as well. And now, finally, a warm welcome to Matthew Watson with Edward Jones. How are you today?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on today.
Absolutely.
So you joined the chamber not super recently. It's been a while now, and a lot of people have gotten to know you. But for those who may not have had the chance yet, tell us a little bit about your role with Edward Jones and who you are and who you typically serve.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll start with kind of who I am for those who don't know me. Matt Watson, my wife Lindsay and I, now wife, moved to Colorado about 4 years ago. We're originally from the Midwest area, like a lot of people out here now, but from Wisconsin. Went to Wisconsin for school with Lindsay as well. We're Badgers, and lived in Chicago for a few years, and then ended our way up here. So it's been great, loving Colorado, loving being more involved with the community where I established my practice. So I'm a financial advisor with Edward Jones. There's a ton of Edward Jones offices all over. I'm sure people have seen them, but I'm the latest to the addition here in Westminster. So my practice is actually located on 112th Avenue, just on the north side of Legacy Ridge, kind of golf community there between Federal and Sheridan. Yeah. I'll get more into kind of how I serve my clients to the best of my ability, but kind of the background of why I went into financial advising. I have a degree for finance and investments from Wisconsin. That's kind of a given, but I would say my family has been pretty involved with the firm for a while. So this all started because my mom, about 20 or so years ago, started working in a branch at Edward Jones as kind of assistant helping plan for the financial advisors she helped support. And it's kind of funny, to this day, I used to mow the grass like at 15 years old of this financial advisor, not even thinking years later I'd actually be working for the firm. So I'd say
how life works.
that's my first role at Edward Jones is lawn care.
Lawn care.
Yeah. So she did it for a while. She's now retired and loving that. And then my dad, he also joined Edward Jones. He and still is a financial advisor for the firm back in Wisconsin. He's been doing it for about 16 years now. And then the latest addition is myself and my older brother. He works for our home office serving high net worth clients on his team. So they finally convinced me, and I can't tell you how much I'm loving it. It's been such a change of pace compared to what I'm used to doing. I'm applying what I know and I'm good at, but I'm also truly just helping the individual in front of me, which is just a really rewarding opportunity.
Yeah. So what do you love the most about the work that you're doing?
Yeah, I think it's evolved already in my time here at Edward Jones. One, I just mentioned it. It's really helping the individual in front of me, going over their goals, planning out life's moments. But it's even more like rewarding to kind of see that come to life. We set a plan, we stick to the plan, and then now I'm working with clients where we're talking about the results, and we're talking about the life memories that they're able to create and share with their kids and grandkids. And that part of it I didn't expect right away, but it's been just such a blessing to kind of experience that.
Yeah, I bet. Awesome.
Yeah.
So it's like a family thing now. You've
Family thing now for
Yeah,
sure.
that's
Yep.
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's always something in the headlines about the economy, and so maybe we'll just pick your brain a little bit for a while.
Sure.
But what should business owners actually be paying attention to right now?
That's a great question. I can't get into quite as specific as I'm sure some business owners would like. I'd say definitely reach out to me. I can provide more clarity on that. The biggest thing and when I work with business owners, and that's a part of my practice, I serve business owners by helping them with retirement plans, whether it's um, simple retirement plans, owner Ks, 401ks, even. There's a wide variety on how I actually serve some of my business owners as clients. Um, when it comes to that and it comes to the investments that are within those, the biggest thing I work with my particular clients on is just coaching them through the emotional resilience of what's going on. On average, every 3 years, the market is up. It finishes up on average. And then there's that fourth year where if there's a pullback, that's kind of the moment where I teach them, like, it's not the end of the world. How many times has the world ended already? And we're still here. That's kind of what I talk about. But that's a moment where we're able to say, okay, maybe there's some strategic moves that we can do. The market has a very efficient way of moving investments into people who are panic selling into people who want to buy those stocks. It's classic um, sell high, buy low, sell
Mhm.
high. It's kind of that, but it's really important to talk to my clients and business owners about that. So that resilience and how we kind of manage their funds and investments at Edward Jones, we have a plethora of systems and analysts that work with me and my team, um, looking for strategic moves as the market maybe takes a step back. Well, we're actually actively applying to see, hey, what are still really quality investments and how can we actually take advantage of that? It's the closest thing we have to a crystal ball. Crystal
Yeah,
ball would be great, but we don't quite
right.
have that. Yeah.
Awesome. So when the market kind of feels uncertain, what are some of the biggest mistakes that you think people tend to make other than, like selling quickly, or I think you mentioned that just a minute ago, but what are some of the other mistakes I think that people tend to make?
Well, I think it's like selling quickly obviously is like the number one kind of hold on a second. Let's take a look at what's actually going on with this. Why is the market reacting this way? But the other thing is letting, like, I'm a very forward focused advisor on like the emotion of investing. When people work with me, we plan for life events. In the end, money is a tool to elevate your lifestyle. It's not for everyone, but that's how I kind of approach my planning. Um, but to that point of the biggest mistakes is letting that news story or the news just stay on all day and just kind of consuming that. It doesn't have to even be investing. Just consuming that amount of news and negativity that's out there is kind of
Yeah.
just really unhealthy on the emotional state of things. And that leads people to reacting and selling and taking a loss that they may have could have avoided. So that's a thing that I work with my clients kind of actively on. I kind of think of myself as a financial therapist on most days.
Yeah, that is a good way to think about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And how do you think that long-term investors, like how should long-term investors think about volatility?
Yeah. There's long-term investing. It can be defined as a couple of things too. So when I work with people, we look at what are your goals. That's the most tangible thing is I really go through an exercise of making people think, what do you want your life to look like? What's your current situation? What do you want it to be? How do we get there? Can we get there? Those are types of the building blocks we have. And then when we're focused on long term, um, that volatility, that's kind of, in a sense, good at times. And I say that because those are the moments where if there's a pullback, that's where we take and look to place strategic purchases. We buy it, we're buying low. On that analogy of those average of 3 years finishing up and the fourth year finishing down, there's kind of more context to add. On that fourth year, when it is down, the market typically performs at least over 20% better that following year. So it really is a good kick up. So that's a good thing to look for. Um, Early on this year, there's already been some volatility as there's been all last year. Market still finished up. So that being said, of those 3 years that kind of perform better, there's still pullbacks. There's still pullbacks. So typically, again, this is kind of just average talking. About 3 times a year is a pullback, about 5%, 5%, and then more of a decent one like 10%. Well, if you remember last year in April, there was quite a pullback and quite a scare like in the market. Well, the market finished pretty strong throughout the year and through the end of the year. And those are the moments that a long-term investor, if you can handle it, if you can stomach it, that's the opportunity. We hate to say it, but we like that. We like the like pullbacks because things are on sale. Would you rather go to your favorite store when things are half off or when things are 150% cost? That's how I kind of tried to coach people.
Yeah, definitely. What are some financial blind spots that you see among small business owners?
I think what I've been seeing is that when small business owners are getting started and just grinding out the days, that it does fall to a wayside, like the retirement planning aspect of it. I really try to encourage small business owners to not just accept a small plan or like a retirement plan. Don't just sign off on it and put it away side. Like that can be used as their own personal financial retirement plan. Like they're the owner of the business. Yes, there's a lot of tax advantages for business owners to do these types of plans, but it's also something to pay attention to and not just set it and forget it type of thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, and maybe not totally applicable to small business owners, but if anyone has a 401k in a small business, Colorado kind of shook things up by mandating they do something for their employees. I've seen a few times where small business owners have just signed up, done it, and now it's like, well, what are the investments doing? How's it doing for you? And more importantly, what about your employees? Like, how are they actually benefiting from something like this? So that's how I work with businesses on actually running their plans.
Got it. Yeah, that was going to be a question that I asked, is just how entrepreneurs should think differently about retirement planning. But I think that was a pretty good answer.
Yeah, well, I mean, kind of to elaborate on that, I also there's a huge thing to be said about their business is their retirement plan. I'm well aware of that, and that's amazing, and that's what I also like coaching and working with business owners on. There's a part of Edward Jones and my practice that we're building it out more, at least me specifically, but we're going to help business owners actually exit. And it's called like exit planning. Basically, who's going to buy your business? What's the legacy you're going to live? Is it going to go to a family member, or do you want me to help broker and find a buyer that's going to be like appropriate for you and selling your business and getting what you want out of it? So there's a part of that management that isn't just the retirement plan.
And at what point do you think a business owner should consider bringing in a financial advisor?
That's a good question. I would say bring in a financial advisor when you're thinking about starting a business. There's a lot of decisions to be made. And there's just like little missteps that can happen. You can use retirement funds such as an IRA or a 401k that you might have had at a previous company. You can use funds like that to actually fund a small business and start up a small business. So there's just like strategic ways to do that. And that's why I say do it before, because you could just misstep that, or you might need to take out a loan that you don't necessarily need to take, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that's just something that I like talking to early on entrepreneurs on just be mindful of that and what can you do actually.
Yeah, and how can business owners like balance reinvesting in their company while still building their personal wealth?
Yeah, that's another good question. A lot of small business owners that I know don't even take a salary for the first couple of years. So it's really just their business is their baby, bread and butter. And the thing about like a retirement plan, for example, if they're able to contribute to that versus taking a salary kind of off the bat, that retirement plan can be tax deductible from the business expenses and profitability. So it actually helps them kind of get going and get started as kind of a tax deduction. So hopefully help that kind of answers your question.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks.
Yeah.
So kind of switching gears just to like regular life, maybe not necessarily business focused, but what does comprehensive financial planning really mean?
Sure. I think it means a lot of things to a lot of different people. I'll talk about how I approach it. It comes from this kind of well-known advisor in my industry anyway, Mitch Anthony, and he wrote a book called Return on Life. instead of like return on investment. It's kind of
Yeah.
clever on that in that sense. So over the last year or so, I've really put that into practice. At the front of my office, we have our kind of commandments, if you will, of our return on life and what that means. Some of them I mentioned already. So it's important when you kind of go through a financial plan to think about like, what do you really want to include in it? And basically, from a logistics standpoint, we cover things like, what does your estate kind of look like, your wills and trust? What are your goals? Obviously, we need to talk deep goals, and not just like retirement goals. It's, do you want to save for the kitchen, and what investment tool can you do that to give it just a little bit more of a budget if you want that exact color or cabinets that you want? What can we do that's risk adverse but still able to apply to that? So we go through goals, and we go through like, when do you want that money to be used? So the estate, the goals we go through. Insurance is a part of planning. It's there's risk in life, and you want to make sure that whoever you work with as a financial planner, they're covering these things like your beneficiaries, your insurance, your goals, and then it's really important to talk about how we get there. I think, a really good job of explaining, these are the investments that you're going to be going into based on our recommendations, and this is why. Like, this is why we're believing in these. If there's a change that needs to be made, we do that kind of proactively, and that's kind of where it's the closest thing we have to a crystal ball. Those are the changes we're making, and taking advantage of market opportunities. All in all, like, the financial plan, it's kind of a living, breathing thing. It's something that you definitely don't want to set and forget. I work with my clients multiple times a year to evaluate it, stress test it, and make sure that we're up to date on where we're going with this thing.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. Actually, is how often someone should revisit their financial plan, or if there are kind of some life events that should trigger like a financial check-in.
Yeah, there are a couple ways to answer that. It depends on where they're at in their lives. I'd say an early investor, let's say someone in their 20s or 30s, it's hard to think about retirement. It's hard to think that you can actually retire someday, maybe.
Yeah.
We'll see. No.
I don't have to work forever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Those are plans where like maybe once a year is sufficient, like as they get older and as they acquire more assets and have they get married, they have kids, that's when we're starting to revisit more. So to the next point, major life events are a really good time to kind of revisit with your financial advisor and planner. There's great incentives in Colorado for kids. So college savings, the 529 plan. Colorado has a really, really good program that gives you literally free money, and they match up to a certain amount. Not a lot of states do that, which is nice to see here. So kids, marriage, buying that first house, and then other life events. Divorce is another time you should absolutely revisit this. You're kind of starting over, and you want to make sure that you set yourself up for success as much as you can. Anytime someone passes away, there's also exchange of funds typically and assets. So that's another time that the family really wants to revisit this, because what that person's goals were for the family and things, well, now that might not necessarily be the case for someone just trying to use those assets for something else, type of thing. So
Yeah.
major life events, as generic as that kind of sounds, those are always a good time to revisit.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. What would you say is one financial habit that can dramatically improve someone's long-term security?
The first joke that popped into my head was like, don't buy that cup of coffee. Like, no, that you can have that cup of coffee. I've heard that, like, everyone's heard that.
Yeah.
You have that cup of coffee, enjoy life a little bit. Is kind of my first thing. A really simple one that I like with clients who like aren't close to retirement and they're still building their wealth is a strategy called dollar cost averaging. And the easiest way to think about it is, think about when you get paid, money gets taken out for health insurance, retirement plan, whatever. Dollar cost averaging is a way that you can contribute to investments kind of periodically. So I could do $100 a month or $50 a month just to get started into a account. And then once that money's in, we purchase investments at whatever the cost is, but we do $50 worth. over time, that's going to grow and grow. You're not going to really think about it. You're not going to miss that $50 per se. And that's just a really good habit that you can start and really just forget about it. And then as it grows, you'll be like, well, wow, it's more than I thought. Because time in the market, not timing the market, time in the market is the most effective thing you can do.
And if someone feels behind financially, if they maybe waited too long or they feel like they've waited too long, where should they start? What's your advice for someone older?
Yeah, good question. One, it's okay. It's okay. Like you'll be all right, and we'll take a look at everything. Another thing is just thinking about what are your expenses. I get granular with people, and we look at budgets, and I help people look at their monthly budgets. No one likes to do it, but I help people kind of get going with that. Then it's about what are your current assets, where are you at, and then what do you want your basically retirement, if you're able to, what does that look like? That starts to creep into like, what is your social security? What's that going to look like? And then there's different tax moves that we can actually look at and see, hey, your social security is going to be this. We want to start looking at maybe your retirement funds, whether it's an IRA or a 401k, and start contributing to that as you're working, because you can only do some of that while you're still working, which is important to know. And then it's, hey, what can we do to decrease your taxable liability, but still kind of maintaining the level of lifestyle you want?
Yeah.
It's kind of a convoluted answer to a question, just because it's very situational.
Yeah, definitely. And that, can you explain like the term risk tolerance and what that really means and how that varies throughout life?
Great question. Risk tolerance is basically how much risk emotionally are you willing to tolerate to get a set historical expected returns. I say historical because nothing in life is guaranteed, but a good example is if I'm in my 30s, I have a longer time until I retire. So I can tolerate typically a market that goes up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. If there's a down year, if there's a major pullback, even something as horrible as like 2008, when that happens again, I don't want to necessarily be a year away from retirement and have that much invested into the US stock market. I'm going to start to diversify and look at bonds more. So the risk tolerance, typically it changes over your lifestyle. The older you get, the less risk you're willing to take. And that's kind of a good way to think about it. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Okay, so you've been in the community for a while now, and as I mentioned, you've gotten involved in the chamber and met a bunch of people. Why is it important for you to serve clients locally?
So it goes back to my family. Like I saw my dad basically go door to door knocking all over Sheboygan, Wisconsin, which is where I'm from. And now that me and my wife, we just bought a house here, and we're really establishing our roots in Westminster. It's really important to serve the community, because I think, this is my perspective, I think society has lost a little bit of that personality and personal touch on things. There's a lot of AI out there. There's a lot of technology out there, which is super fantastic. But the hand-to-hand handshake and the in-person kind of meeting and the trust that it really takes to get to know a financial advisor, and vice versa, for me to get to know my clients. That's why it's so important for me to be established in this community and not just kind of a random person has a business here. No one knows really that much about me. So that's it's just a major important things. And that's where Edward Jones came from. The story of our firm, our founder basically worked in New York, didn't like the big Wall Street, went back to St. Louis where he's from, and that's where the branches started. He would go to farms and kind of middle America selling securities out of the trunk of his car. And that's why you see all these Edward Joneses kind of on like Main Street USA kind of per se.
Yeah.
So that's I really believe in that. I really believe that I want to help the community as much as I can.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And what would you say is like the most common myth about investing?
That's a good question. I think what I've heard from people who are either prospective clients or clients or not clients is that you need a lot of money to invest. You need a lot of money. It's a rich person's game. And I can attest to that. It's not. It's just changing the mindset. If you're able to afford thinking openly about like what you want to do, there's little things you can do to get started. Like I mentioned, that dollar cost averaging, where $50 a month, $25 a month, you can get started, and in not that long a time, you'll see that difference kind of being made on these investments type of thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. And do you have a good financial book that you would recommend to folks to read?
I have a couple on my shelf. I think I'll go back to the Return on Life book that I mentioned, Mitch Anthony, Return on Life. It does a number of, it's kind of geared towards financial advisors, but also I gave it to a couple of clients and they said it helped them just think about what they actually want to do with their lives. It kind of helped, it walks through, again, money's a tool, but the primary measure of success is the return on life. It's the fundamental question in return on life philosophy is how much money do you need, but is your money being managed in a way that's going to improve your life? That's like a big topic of the book. And I think that's important, especially when people are considering who do they trust to work with their finances.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, we have a couple minutes left. Is there anything else that we haven't touched on that you would like people to know?
I don't know. I like I said, I think, I have the fun fact that I always go to. It's been my icebreaker for about like 15 years now. I mentioned I went to the University of Wisconsin. So did my brother, Brett. My other brother, Jordan, he's a firefighter back in Wisconsin. We say he's like the real hero of the family, which is kind of funny. Like it's like he's the only one that's doing like community forward, but no, we're all trying to help our community as much as we can. Yeah. But my brother Brett and I at Wisconsin, we actually were the mascots for Wisconsin Badgers. So
no way.
Him and I were Bucky. So I like to share that just because people are like, what? My financial advisor was a mascot?
Gotta love it.
Yeah. So that's kind of it. But no,
there's going to be people asking for pictures.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome.
Other than that, no. If you ever see me in the community, please say hi. Like I said, Lindsay and I, we got married last October, bought a house already. We're doing the whole life thing. And it's just been great and super fun to be part of the community.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you for coming on the broadcast today. And thanks for everybody who joined us live. And thanks to everybody who's going to rewatch this. Tons of good information. Thanks so much, Matthew. And your contact information is in the chamber directory. So if anybody needs to get a hold of you, they know how. And hope everybody has a good rest of your week.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye.